All right, let's talk about this week's books on a more okay, because this is a positive note. We're ending.
Yeah,
we got a fresh start this week, and I would say they're both really spoilers, but they were good fresh starts. So yeah, let's talk about some positive things.
We're going to be talking about Titans #1 and Avengers #1, very much so. We'll start with Titans because I actually got to interview the creative team behind it, and I even told them opening up, I was like, okay, and by the way, there's spoilers again coming for both these books. I was like, all right, you had me worried. Because at the beginning of this issue, there's a character that, well, I can go into it. Wally West. There's a whole Wally West section, and that kind of forms the premise for much of the kind of mystery that will power things along. Wally West suffers
Has Wally not suffered enough?
I know, seriously. So suffers a fate.
He dared to step into Barry's shoes.
He's essentially kind of managed to, halt time just enough to kind of get a message out when he's dying. And so that kind of powers things. But as in typical Tom Taylor fashion, I expect that to really, and even by the end, you get some flourishes there and that moves. So again, I don't take that. I'm not going to grade that until we see how really things play out. But we get to see the Titans in this really new role of they are the Justice League for all intents and purposes. They are DC's main superhero team. There's a fantastic interaction with Peacemaker.
That's my favorite part of the book.
Kill that monkey.
Because Peacemaker is such a jerk, and because now obviously with their more prominent role, they handle things differently than the Justice League. You also have Amanda Waller and the Suicide Squad kind of trying to manage them because they don't view them as on that same tier. And if you're a Nightwing fan, again, like you're in safe hands with Tom Taylor, but like this. There's so many great Nightwing lines in this. Nicholas Scott does the artwork. It's also fantastic. I just think if you're a fan of the Titans and you've always loved the family dynamic that has been there, you'll get that here. Tom knows how to write that, and he knows how to write banter between people, and there's growing pains. They're all adults now. You got to remember, like the Titans as a team, they've been together for a long time, but it's always like in spurts. Like they're not, together for 10 years at a time. They're together for like a year, maybe 2, and then they break up or there's a different roster. People go do whatever, people die, right? And they come back. So this team is, a pretty solid core foundation team, but they've all changed. I mean, Cyborg's been a member of the Justice League for so long and done his own thing. Beast Boys is in a different place. I love that we get a shining Donna Troy spotlight because that character gets so pushed aside. So there's just a lot of really good stuff here. And I think if it's a good #1, it ushers you into what's going on, new status quo and everything. And I think it does its job really well. I really enjoyed it.
I think you buried the lead. The 2003 group of 5 is on this team.
Yes.
Something that I've always tried to chase in comics, but they're always like, no Cyborgs with the Justice League. It's like, screw you, he's on the Titans. But like, as a guy who grew up specifically on that 03 series, I've seen the Titans been done dirty. So them and Young Justice, it's like, who do we punch this week?
That's true.
With you like this team's camaraderie? Too bad. Half of them's dead. Or they don't like each other anymore because they all got old. Like a lot of that Dark Crisis was just like, hey, Young Justice, you guys were outdated when you were around. It's like, gee, thanks. We forgot the passage of time exists. No, I freaking love this. And it's like, this is things that have been built up over decades in DC where it's like, Nightwing, eventually we're going to let you run the Justice League. Yeah. It's like, we're finally getting to realize that. Yeah. And what better way to bring that forward than, okay, I'm going to do it, but I'm bringing the Titans with me.
Yeah.
Like I love that. I love that it's Taylor running this. He's one of the best guys out there right now. Absolutely. We get Beast Boy and Raven that like guys that ship came from the show. Yeah. And it's been teased with like there's some graphic novels that just absolutely go full on graphic novels. Those are fantastic. Yeah. I love that. I love that they were like, nope, they're a couple. We're not hiding it. Yeah. We're not fighting this. Go for it. And the only complaint I had was, why is Wally West even in this book?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, well, he's not really.
Yeah, he's not really until I'm very curious to see how that plays out. But I agree with you. And I even think of the 2003 lineup. That's, because
the whole left side of that poster is just, hey, guys, remember that show?
That's true. Back. Yeah. Janelle, what did you think? Because I know we've actually read a lot of Dick Grayson specifically and other things, but like, I don't think actually we've ever touched on a Titans book. in this entire time. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I love the show. So I first of all, like, I fell in love with Titans via the show, and I binged it like start to finish, and I just well now finish. I was hoping that there would be more seasons, but and so that's kind of where I'm coming from, and this just felt so aligned with the show that I felt very comfortable in this space, like with each character. I was like, oh, I know what this character does, and I know what that character, and I know all the powers, and it was really familiar and really nice to see them because I miss them, and I am bummed about the cancellation of the show. So that alone just had me stoked. Like I was really really excited to see some of my favorite characters again. I love Dick. He's great. Like, and I think that and I think that they do a great job of making him likable but also really strong, and that makes me happy. And I love like the line where he's like, I'm not Batman in this. And that's a really cool, comparison, because if you don't have a lot of knowledge of where he comes from and who he is, like I feel like just knowing that he has worked with Batman and he is the son of Batman, like you think that he's going to be just like Batman, but he couldn't be more different. And I love that about Dick Grayson. So yeah, this is great. Like I read this one first out of the two, and I liked this one better.
Yeah, no, Kofi, what do you think?
I mean, I think Tom Taylor is the best at, and we've said this so many times, at kind of taking, he knows the characters, like him and Chip Zdarsky are so good at knowing these characters so deeply well and their history and the highlights of those histories, and taking kind of a mix of those highlights that are popular with everybody, the most mainstream popular ones, and the deeper kind of DC lore, and marrying them together. And so I think, like the new Superman series that we've been kind of raving about, this one, as people have pointed out, it not just takes from like Titans comic history, but it feels like this is almost like carved out of some of the animated stuff, but it works, and it's or the live action show. And so like we understand these relationships, and both these books did a good job of just not trying to do the wild new team rosters, but going back to the classic kind of combinations of characters that you would expect, and having them, like you said, but it's been so long since we've had that classic. But these are the core relationships, Dick Grayson, Donna Troy, Raven, Cyborg, Beast Boy, we'll figure out what Wally's doing later, but Starfire in there. And so like, it's the classic stuff. And he understands, like you said, the family dynamic. Both of these team books are really good and had really great battle sequences where it wasn't just a fight. It was a fight with these people who know each other really well, coordinate really well, talk and communicate and have plans. And like both of them, it's like, the Titans have something to do. It's like, okay, let's get to it. We know what we got to do. We got to get the people out of here. Raven, get the people out of here. Cast this spell. You use this. You do that. You do that. And they just flawlessly kind of flow off each other. And that's what makes a fun team book. So I have kind of weirdly the same comments for both books, but like, this was Titans.
One other thing, if we're just going to write Peacemaker as John Cena from now on, I'm good with that. That's perfect.
Well, I liked it because DC and Tom Taylor picking up that thread, I'm happy about, because DC kind of has lost. I was loving kind of the stuff in the last year or so that they were doing with a different Amanda Waller verse.
Yeah.
Like Task Force Z, Suicide Squad, and the whole multiverse thing they're doing. But that thread has been kind of lost. It's getting kind of confusing about like where that all sits. Why is there two Banes out here, and like the zombies, and what's going on with that? But I'm liking that Titans will now pick that up as a thread, because that's a good kind of connective, and those would be good crossovers between the kind of Waller books and what's happening here.
I mean, just getting Peacemaker and Dick Grayson interacting on a more regular basis, I'm down for that, because it's great. Showcases both the personalities, and he really is John Cena at this point. Black Adam became The Rock for a bit there, like even in like art, like he was looking exactly like him, and now Peacemaker is John Cena. And then like Kofi said, we got two team books, we got two number ones. It's a perfect launching point. We'll go into the Avengers. Avengers number one is very much as opposed to Titans, takes a bit of a different approach. It goes with the whole building the team approach. You move through every single member, and it's
it's like
the new chair. Very much. Which I tend to love those type of issues when they're done right. My only ever complaint about those is when like the time in between them is too small. So like when a book shuts down, with only like 6 or 7 issues, and then you relaunch it and you do the same thing again.
Yeah.
The time period is like, we just did this.
Yeah.
That's only ever really the time I have a problem with these. So we have Captain Marvel in the new chair, going through and kind of sometimes inviting, sometimes, you know, with like people like Thor, like I never left, like I'm always going to be an Avenger. I love that Iron Man is the people know that I despise everything about Civil War 2. That was a
Such
train
a
wreck,
bad
and that
book.
was right there with AVX. Okay, I can't stand those books, and
Yeah,
so
they
that's
were
the thing. So I love that Jed MacKay is getting to the point where I trust him as much as I trust someone like Tom Taylor. Jed MacKay has yet to do, between Doctor Strange, Moon Knight, Mary Jane, Black Cat, Iron Man, like the characters he has worked with, he has such a great understanding of the history. So you see all that throughout every single interaction they have. The Black Panther one, especially, like the back and forth when like she challenges him on stuff. He's like, I didn't come here. So this is why you called me to get scolded. There's so many great back and forths. And even at the end of that, it's like, yeah, but like you're always like, I still need you on this team. I like that there's conflict between members, and yet we're still able to kind of be grown-ups and go like, hey, like we can still work together. We can still do this. And having Tony Stark be the first one makes all the sense. So by the end, it kind of moves into kind of your grander, you know, adventure. We'll get into spoilers here, Kang and some other things. So you do have that. And you have this epic battle happening in the middle of all of this between like two godlike beings. But the core of the issue is still, hey, let's get the team together. Can we work together as a team? Also, thank you, by the way, Jed MacKay. I was worried. Me and Janelle read the Captain Marvel book. Kelly Thompson does such a wonderful job with that character. And sometimes that character does not translate when she goes into another team setting and like the writer doesn't have they have a different interpretation of who that character is. And so I was just a little worried. I shouldn't have been because it's Jed, but I love that it's pretty seamless. It's a pretty seamless. I love, like, if I can get this interpretation of the character in the movies, I'd be happy as a clam. I think they did a really good job of capturing that amongst all these characters. So I think it's fun. I started out really loving the previous Avengers series, Jason Aaron, and then it got super just it was muddled, and there was so many things going on. I mean, we're talking about, you know, time travel, prehistoric Avengers, and we're talking about Eternals, and we're talking about, you know, timelines and all these things happening. And that thing just got too messy for me. And by the end, I was like, I don't know what's even happening anymore.
You didn't like the freaking Judgment Day thing where just the guy at the end is just like, hey, I'm checking to see if any of you guys are okay.
Yeah, no, I didn't dig it.
It was like, what was the point of any of this?
Exactly, what was that? I love Ghost Riders on Woolly Mammoths, but that was cool. But like, there's certain parts. So this just feels like a getting back to basics of what an Avengers book is. I love the definition Carol has at the beginning of like, we're firefighters. We put out we deal with problems that they can't. That's it. We don't have any of these other lofty things.
That felt like a direct shot at Civil War.
Oh yeah,
that was.
Yeah.
And you know, she even mentions the Civil War. She's like, we get in the Civil Wars when we don't do that. I think it was just so done really well, and I'm excited for the future. What do you guys think?
And I think just real quick, because mine's short. Like, these kind of book could have failed so easily because it is, as people have pointed out, just such a boilerplate like crew, like heist crew thing. Like even Rick and Morty did like an episode making fun of these things. Like, where have you been, you son of a bitch? I'm back. Yeah, and like, but it's done in such a comic book way that this would be an awesome pilot episode of a TV show where it's the battle, and as you're kind of waiting, something happens in the battle to kind of make you be like, uh-oh. And then they're like, Carol calls in somebody and is like, well, I have this person. Let's call in the power. And then it's like a flashback to who the power is, what and how she got them on the team. And then it gets back to the action. And we talk about first issues so much here. And this was like a perfectly executed first issue. Yeah. Everything's familiar. No, nothing. It's not the wild new Avengers team. This is the classic collection of characters, some of the most popular right now in like from the MCU and all that. And you're just like, this could be like really just kind of hokey and standard, but like, no, it was probably one of the more fun first issues I've had for like a team book.
Yeah.
I love the dynamic and I love the setup. My only initial thought was, this is an incredibly OP Avengers team. You've got outside of a few like Omega level mutants, this is the strongest lineup you can really have in terms of just pure brute force.
But you got Sam.
And then you got Sam, which was a good. I love that scene, even though as I was reading everyone calling each other Cap, I'm like, Marvel's gonna steal this for a movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And everyone's gonna roll their
eyes. You?
Captain America
Spider-Man
4?
meme all over
Captain
again.
America 4 is gonna be like this.
And Steve, I love how he pointed out, he's like, guys, the Who's on First thing was old when I was come on.
Yeah, that's great.
And the only thing with that is like, if that team is so OP, it's like, okay, you need a villain that makes me actually think you can stand up to him. And it's like the big guy they're fighting in this comic. It's like, okay, this is just filler. Like,
yeah, right.
He's going down in a minute. And then she gets warped to Kang, who I'm like, that's I get why, because of the movies, but also like, that's the best you could do for if a team is this stacked. And your answer is it's the guy who time travels and is sometimes a threat.
Yeah.
You just really have to like squint to be like, okay, no, he can kind of be threatening.
Yeah, no, I get that.
You know, we just saw him get jobbed by a bunch of ants. So why should we care about him in the comics?
Jobbed.
Wrestling
term.
I think the roster makes sense for what Carol lays out as the putting out the grand fires. Like they're only there to do the big things. And so it does make sense that it is a collection of
those biggest guns,
But like, if that had been Thanos, I'd have been like, okay, we're doing
it makes
something.
sense. Yeah. Well, it's funny, Janelle. How did you feel about this this group, number one, and also the threat?
I don't get the threat. Like, I don't know what's happening. All I know is there's a black hole, and that's scary. But but I don't need to. I don't need to know this villain very well because the stakes felt very, very high. And I love the way that they kind of worked together and each had their specific role. Like you guys commented on the way they introduced each one separately on each day. Like, I just thought the flow, everything about this was really, really cool and easy to follow. And yeah, I just think it's a great team. I'm team Thor, which is weird because like I usually am not that into Thor, but in this one, I love Thor in this. So it feels really good to see Vision. I've been missing Vision a lot because, you know, I'm more into like the TV movie stuff and I haven't gotten him since WandaVision. And so I'm very happy with every single one they chose and the way they went about showing those choices. And then of course, Captain Marvel, I mean, she's a rock star. Like, I mean, and I have to know what happens after this. Like, where the heck is she and why is she talking to that dude? I don't want to spoil.
I just want to point out from couple things from the comments that we're clear on. Kang isn't the villain. This does tie back to Timeless series in which explored Kang trying to find this pivotal moment that he can never reach, and there is a threat coming that book kind of built up. So he's kind of the harbinger of the threat, and it's going to be kind of like, do we work with Kang? I feel like.
Well, and I was going to bring that. That's the one thing to. Oh, sorry. That was the one thing to the whole like, why is he in this book? I do love that McKay is pulling from. He's been working on that Kang cycle and that Kang story for so long now. The fact that he felt like that he's integrating it into this run gives me a lot of confidence.
I think it's going to be I think this could be one of the more interesting kind of big bad things we're building up to that you need this actual team for. I'll finally say as my last comment, I also thought it was pretty awesome milestone not to have the two black characters automatically be friends in this. That was a small little diversity note for me. But I was like, oh, that is really real. I like this. Like when they kind of meet and they're like,
What was with the line where he's like, I'm the Black Panther. I never have good news. I'm like, what?
No, he doesn't. I mean, Black Panther's T'Challa's not known for being Mr. Positivity.
Right. Sure. Like, it's like, what? How do those two things connect?
But I will say, I don't know where that, like, I don't think it's like a mantra or a catchphrase or something that like he's had that did come off as like, oh, that's his, like, that's my thing. And that's what I say. And like, no, that's not real. But I agree. I do love that they're depicting him. T'Challa a lot of times in the comics is like, he's way more affable in the movies and stuff. Like in the comics, he's kind of a curmudgeon.
Well, he's like Namor. They're both kings. And they don't necessarily need to like bow down to these other people. They're like, yeah, great, you're a super soldier, I'm a king. Like,
in those dynamics when they were like on screen a lot together, or on the page a lot together, like Storm was always more the, you know, like I think she handles the balance better, you know, because she's a queen, but she's also personable and charismatic and stuff. So yeah, so that's comics. Lots of good stuff this week.